Hello and greetings. This is Jorge Misael Santos Martinez speaking, and in this opportunity, I'm going to be working with the speaking section number 5 of English grammar. This section relies upon the subject of the simple past and the past continuous tense, and I'm going to talk about these exercises and this tense specifically by discussing a natural disaster or an event that caused a natural disaster. Now, the event that I'm going to talk about is close to my heart, to say the least, at least because it affected me personally and many family members, friends, neighbors. This event is a little bit traumatizing, so I want you to be understanding and be mindful and careful about this topic that I'm going to discuss. With all of this said, we can begin. Now, I'm going to describe this natural disaster the following way. I'm going to give a brief description of the event leading to the disaster. I'm going to talk about the actions that were taken in the moment of the disaster and afterwards. I'm going to relay the impact, uh, both economically and psychologically, and the aftermath as well. So, with all of this in mind, I'm going to begin. So, the disaster was a severe flood that occurred on November 27, 2016, in Villa Isabela, Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. Due to heavy rains that had been falling for several days in the area, due to a vaguada, like we call it here, during the Sunday night of that day of November 27, the rivers that we have here, both river of Gualetico or Gualetico River and el río Unijica, or better known as Rio Bajabonico, overflowed and flooded all of the streets of Villa Isabela and La Llanada as well. And because of it, many houses and material possessions were destroyed, and some of them were flooded, the ones who weren't washed away by the currents of the river. Those houses that were washed away were the ones close to the river itself, so it was quite a traumatic event for many, including some family members. But the most difficult part was the death toll. In many will say that the death toll wasn't that severe because we only have the two deaf people that we know for sure that died. There were a couple of people that disappeared, and some of them were found alive, thank God. But we have two deaths in the community. One was an old man that lived quite close to the river, and the other was from another whole community miles away from ours. The community was the community of El Mamey, Los Hidalgos. So that old man died because he tried to run to go through the flooding river, and he didn't expect that the flood were and the currents of the flood were that strong, and he was washed away alongside his motorcycle. And that was the thing that killed him. We found his body close to my community, to the river area of my community. We found his corpse there. So the action that we're taking in that night was immediate. Many neighbors helped each other to grab anything that they can have, any possession that they have that were capable of being saved. Many have the luck of having a two-story buildings, and they put most of their belongings in those houses. Others didn't have the opportunity of even doing that. So because of it, we had to, they had to run away from their houses and search for higher places, like the small hills around the town. In the following days, the authorities help us out with many things, giving us provisions and food, water, clean water, and many other amenities that we needed. But not much was lost, honestly. Nothing but material things were lost. But the most important thing of them all was the severe impact that this flood had. This flood destroyed and damaged many houses. And most of the damage was mud that went through many houses. Some houses were completely collapsed by the pressure of the water, of the flowing water powder. But the most damaging part of it all, besides the material and the life, was the crops. Many crops and many farmers lost most of their crops because of the floods. And others that didn't lose that much, eventually, because of the high amount of water, they lost as well those crops. Most of the crops were plantains and bananas, and others were other type of typical crops like auyama and many other type of crops. But those were mostly the loss. Also, we have to fix the electricity in the sector because we didn't have electricity for a couple of days. That was a big issue as well. Um, Many mudslides occurred in many other hills of the area, and but there weren't that much damage because of it. The most, or the bulk of all of the damage, was because of the floods. Now, the aftermath of this disaster was, something to say. The local authorities and the community organized themselves to provide aid to many families. We started to cleaning houses, repairing the damage that was made, trying to recover what was left in any material sense. Many businesses lost a lot of um, money because of it, because most of their product were damaged by the water, mostly food and other simple amenities that we need for the most part. So yes, this whole event was something quite traumatic. It's difficult for me to talk about it, even though it has been a couple of years now. It's gonna be 10 years from that moment. So that was my brief participation. Sorry for the long winded video, but talking about this is a little bit difficult. And you have to understand sometimes these circumstances can happen and affects people in many different ways. But this was my brief participation. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to this traumatic telling. I'm glad and I hope that you don't suffer a similar event or any other type of event that can harm or make you feel that you're incapable of helping anybody. Because these type of circumstances that nature bring us or brought to us can be difficult, but it also can help us out to develop ourselves into better persons, into better people. So let's remind ourselves that in the difficulties of time and the many tragedies that can bring nature to us, or that nature can bring to us, we have to rely in each other and try to move forward and help each other when we are down. Thank you for listening and cheers.